Hello and welcome to the first episode of LionWing Features, a show where we feature community-made content for LionWing games. This first episode focuses on our upcoming battle card game Gun and Gun, and was made by one of our Discorders by the name of Af. Af loves Gun and Gun and Theorycrafting, and so we put together this 30-minute episode on that very thing, combining the two things he loves, Gun and Gun and Theorycrafting, looking at various cards in the game, looking at various combinations, and looking at potential loadouts that could be good, maybe not as strong, and things you want to consider when you're playing either casually or competitively. This comes at a good time too, because we are launching our first Gun and Gun event here in 2.5 weeks called Operation Bulletstorm, which will be a casual but fun tournament where we will feature some pretty cool prizes, and you can sign up to be a part of that by checking out our Discord and also by checking out the latest Kickstarter update where we've got links of the tournament rules, the sign up forms, and further details. So, this show, LionWing Features, will not be a weekly show like our two other shows. If you're not aware, we have two other shows that happen every week, Mondays and Wednesday nights over on Twitch, 9 p.m. EST. Mondays, we've got a show called LionWing Plays, where we play LionWing games. And Wednesday is our flagship show, which is called LionWing Talks. And that's where I answer community questions and give project updates about what's happening with all of our games. So it won't be a weekly show like that, but it will be popping up every now and then. It won't always be about Gun and Gun either. It might be about Embryo Machine. It might be about Testament. It might be about Wad Hunt Festival. It might be about Dynamic CMR. It might be about our upcoming project. You never know. So be on the lookout for that. You can always subscribe to our YouTube. This show will not be streamed, so YouTube is the only place that you'll be able to get it. And so be sure to subscribe to us, hit that bell, and be notified of when the new episode of LionWing Features goes live. So without any further ado, we're going to give the floor to Af, who put together this video for us, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, thank you.
Hi everyone, glad you came by. My name is Af. I fall in love with LionWing so far, for there are many projects and people who are working on many of these incredible games published by them. But today we're gonna talk about Theorycrafting for one of them, Gun and Gun. I'd like to thank Bradley for this opportunity. I'm immensely grateful for this chance given to me, so I hope everyone is safe. Take any form of paper and pen, because class is in session. It's time to talk about tier crafting for loadouts and strats for your favorite gunners. Let's go! The first gunner we are going to talk about is Ran, the self-proclaimed idol of the underclass. With the N of 3 and agility of 2, Ran is, in my opinion, the least appealing gunner regarding her stat, but her ability changed that. Being able to load one bullet at the end of turns really helps building powerful and impactful turns. Now, let's go see her skill cards. The first skill card I'm going to talk about is Hold On. For 8 voltage, you'll get a consistent amount of healing and can be a useful skill on more aggressive strategy. And surely is a solid pick for everyone. The second one, at 13 of voltage, is Here I Come. It is a pricey skill card with a somewhat decent effect. User friendly for those who are starting to play. At some point you're going to grow out of it and might seem less interesting compared to the other skill cards. The last skill of Ran is Let's Go, a 15 voltage skill for a good reason. Being able to make your opponent skip a turn is really strong. Being able to set up or even gaining a turn on your opponent can be the difference between a win and a loss. For the next gunner, the poster girl of Gun and Gun, Ibana, the fastest gunner yet. With a solid 3 for hand and 5 agility, you can guarantee to always start first, and being able to start with a small edge on your opponent. Her ability makes it easy and efficient to activate her skill cards rapidly. Ibana is more oriented for aggressive play. And for the skill cards, Oboro Bashiri, is a unique skill card amongst gunners because it can be reset face down to activate it again and again, and for the modest amount of 5 voltage it is a really good skill to spam. And now onto the next skill card, Senko Anabi. The skill card with possibly the most damage output of the game, with a value of X minus 3 damage paired with Ibana's ability which helps charge it faster than expected, one-shotting enemy who are not careful enough. Lastly but not least, the last skill card of Ibana, Kage Isomi. At 8 voltage, it gives you a free turn to gun down your opponent without doing anything, since they cannot use reaction card and nullifier effects that would reduce the damage done this turn. And finally, for the last gunner, Kuriko, the last gunner available on the demo on Tabletop Simulator. With the 4-4 lineup, for sure you'll be able to do couple of action in your turn. The ability to be able to mulligan is something that can be useful. Being able to make your hand better for a good start is really important. The first skill card of Kuriko is Bullet in the Air. Is a really good defensive tool against all strategies. Taking less damage equals more opportunities to find a solution against your opponent, and at a cost of 6, it is really easy to activate it early to have as much value as possible. And now, probably the most popular skill card of Kuriko, Maximum Reload with a cost of 6 voltage is a powerful ability to convert into explosive turns. The burst clause is particularly important for turning the tides in a match. Again, it would be a difference between a win and a loss. And now for the last skill card of Kuriko, Juiced Up. Juiced Up is particular in the sense that paired with a certain weapon, it can deal more than just a good amount of damage. Again, at a cost of 6, the fatal moment you've been waiting for can arrive earlier than expected. Now that I've presented all the gunners available for now, let's take a look at the important part of any loadout. Let's check out those big guns. Therefore, the first gun I'm going to talk about is Annuity Revolver. It is the most user-friendly gun among others. It has amazing effects to support other guns, but that I'll talk about a bit about it later on in this video. The next one, Annuity Railgun, has the most potential to land powerful blows to your opponent. 14 hits is a lot, so does the amount of bullet required to do such damage. Its ability helps it load all those bullets to make that 14 damage a reality and not a dream. The next one, Aquaman the Crossbow, is perfect for long-lasting game. Healing as much damage you're dealing can be really useful, but it is a hard gun to master and play properly. A lot of support card in its deck offers gun consistent loading effect, so always keep that in mind when building your loadout. The next gun is probably my favorite out of all the ones we currently have, One the Particle Cannon. It has good way to discard your opponent's resources, and with its fast loading speed, it is not that hard to commence milling your opponent out of card. And the last one of the weapons that we are going to see today is the Datara Rifle. Its ability makes you guaranteed to disrupt your opponent with special bullet. Clearly is one, if not the best weapon from all the ones we currently have right now. Therefore, before we are moving on, I'm aware that Notori and Isane the shotgun are coming eventually to the demo, so maybe all I just said might not be viable anymore, but hey, losing is part of learning. Now, I hope you're still listening because we are going to do a bit of theory crafting. So, come with me to the arsenal and see what I prepared for you guys. Alright, welcome to the arsenal. So this part of the video might be like the most boring one, but I think you guys, if you watch the video, you are technically there for that. So let's I'll start talking about why I'm on Google Drive and all that stuff, so I can show you guys what is up with that. So when making a loadout, or when thinking about a loadout or theory crafting, um, you have to take in consideration what you need for your build up. What is your game plan? And sometimes your game plan might be to mill your opponent out with the Uwan, or sometimes you probably want to be super aggressive with something like with the Enra and the Tara, which is a good combo that I'm gonna talk about a bit later on. But overall, you have to be aware of what is the percentage and what are in your decks. So let's take a look at this graph. If we take example from the Enra, which has 14 special bullet, it is a lot. It is 70% of the deck, because each deck has 20 cards. It's taking a big part of the deck. But among those 14 cards, two of them are stealth bullet, and the other two are paralysis bullet. So can't use reaction and can't use action, if I recall. I might need to check later on this video. But the other 10 is double bullet. And double bullet can be really useful paired with like any other guns for like special effect and stuff. And it only has 6 action. So you might be thinking, oh well, for sure I'm gonna pick the Enra. Again, you are in a draft system. When you're playing on tabletop, simulator for the demo, uh, it is a draft system, so your plan might change along the way. So you're gonna have to think about plan A, plan B. Um, I want to like to mention two other things that I didn't talk about when I was presenting the guns. First off, I completely overlooked and forgot to mention the Tara second ability that at the end of your turn you can take one card of your choosing from your discard pile and add it to your hand, which is really good. It's just a reusable, it's just a passive, it's an ability that makes you reuse your already used resources for like additional effect and just have some consistency, and also just to save resources in overall. And the other thing that I didn't talk about, because for me, and not for me, but just a knowledge, just something that I know, is that the weight of the gun does not matter for now. Amongst all the gunner in the core set, they all have different agility, so the weight of the gun does not matter. But let's say that later on in future expansion we get, or future cards we are getting, um, they're gonna have gunners with similar agility, sorry, to other gunners. Well, that's gonna matter afterward. But for now, for the demo, when Notori is gonna get out, when the not gonna get out, but when it's gonna come out in the demo, it's not gonna matter very much, because for those who don't know, Notori has 5 and 1 agility, and her ability is that each time she takes 3 damage, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. So again, it's 1 agility, Ran has 2, Ibana has 5, and Kuriko has 4. So all of them have different agility, so you should not be afraid of taking any guns just because of the weight. But again, you want to be sure to take the certain guns with certain abilities, so like that you have like a synergy. So let's take a look at this graph again. So for Enra, you can load 2 bullets per turn, which is good for most of the time. Uh, 14 special bullet, 6 action, 0 reaction, and 0 mechanism. Okay. Anyway, 1 load, 2 special bullet, 7 action, 9 reaction, and 2 mechanism. As you can see, the Niue is more of a reaction and an action gun than the Enra, which might lead to just have it there just to have its stack and not load any bullet into the gun, then shoot it. If we take a look at the Aquaman, for example, which is a bit more balanced, 4 special, 3 action, 5 reaction, and 8 mechanism. There's a card in Aquaman's deck which is called Diversion, which allows you for 0 to draw X plus 1 card, and X is the value of mechanism you have on your field. You can only activate it once, as you can see, it has a lot of mechanism to play out of that. So if you pair the Aquaman with all those mechanisms that adds healing at the end of your turn, that adds damage to some to all the shots you're shooting, um, automated cannon, auto cannon, sorry, that deals 5 damage at the start of your turn to your opponent, and all that stuff, you tend to have like an idea of, okay, Aquaman and Ra probably more support-ish, even though the Aquaman can be really clutch at sometimes, like shown in the Line Plays episode 3. On the first game that Beans and Sin played, the Aquaman was clutch because it made them like survive, and on the second game, the Aquaman didn't do much because I milled that out. So he couldn't do really much about it except loading the Aquaman. And the Aquaman has a pretty slow, I would say, loading speed. So because of that, you kind of want to draw in the Aquaman just for his reaction, action, and mostly his mechanism, just to have that good effect going on of the reloader that makes you load cards into your guns, and additional hits with the spiral shooter. Uwan 4 special bullet, 9 action, 3 reaction, and 4 mechanism. So you could pair the Aquaman and the Uwan together, but again, it might be a slow combo unless you have like Ran or another like gunner that can load up, or maybe another gun like the New Way to load up some bullet into heavier guns or like bigger guns to do more damage and more effect. And lastly, the Datara with 4 special bullet, 13 action, 3 reaction, and 0 reaction. So out of the bunch, the Datara has a lot of action, and most of them are discard, discard your opponent's bullet. Oh, when your opponent's getting damaged, they have to discard cards. All that stuff. I'll talk a bit about the Uwan and Datara on the next slide, on the next sheet, because it is an important part of the deck building, of the loadout selection. So we're gonna go right there, right now. So don't take care of the other part of the TCG matter effect. I'm gonna talk about a bit about it like in soon enough. So I have compiled all the previous numbers into this one and just give a percentage. So let's say that you are in a very aggressive matchup and you don't have much healing, but you do have the Aquaman because you thought about, hey, the Aquaman could be a good idea if I want to survive the long game. Because your plan is, I don't know, grinding your game out, or you just want to have enough health to just not get killed. So like that you can like counter your opponent by saying like, okay, you may damage me a lot, but I healed part of it and I can deal you maybe as much damage as you do. So right here is the percentage of drawing a certain type of card. So let's say with the Enra you have a 70% chance of drawing a special bullet, which in certain cases can be good. Let's say in Uwans and Datara, you have the most percentage of action because, of course, they have more action, and etc. So those percentage can just help you saying like, okay, what I need right now? Do I need a reaction? Do I need a mechanism? What do I need for my synergy in my game plan? And now we're gonna talk about the TCG matter effect. When I say TCG matter effect, it's more like the usual vocabulary that certain training card game or just card game player are going to use in general. So draw, card advantage. In this case, we have cards that loads bullet, additional damage, disruption, and support. So draw and card advantage. I've counted all the cards that either draw you cards or give you resources. Example, give you resources, the meaning that, cool off from the Enra that costs 0, you take one card of your voltage and add it to your hand. Or, I think it's another card from the, I think it was, again, from the Enra that you gain a card, you pick a card from your discard pile and add it to the top of your deck and shuffle it back. But if it's a special bullet, you're just ticketing out directly into your hand. So again, it's a card advantage and a draw, or even like a mill save because you're like shuffling back some of your resources. So overall, it's a draw and card advantage. And as you can see, suddenly the percentage are not as similar as the percentage of the card draw that I showed just a bit before, with here of like, hey, you have only let's say for the Aquaman, oh, you only have 20% chance of getting a special bullet or an action, a reaction mechanism. You see like 20, 15, 25, and 40. But if you go on the TCG Matter effect on the Aquaman, which is the fourth one, suddenly you see something really interesting, that it has a bit of card draw, a bit of loading effect, a bit of additional damage, no disruption though, and a lot of support stuff. Meaning, when I say support stuff, is all about healing, all about getting like card advantage, reduced damage from the well, not card advantage, but getting life gain back or anything with the evasion. And if you look at Uwan and Titara, they have a lot of disruption. What I mean by that? For me, disruption is all the cards that you play against your opponent that made them play under your control. It's basically a bit like counterspell in Magic, or just like controlling the board with in either games, or just in like either games you can think of. Because the U1 can make your opponent mill cards, so mill resources, and the U1 prevents your opponent from playing certain cards and do certain stuff to then discard them. And also it guarantees damage and all that good stuff. So the Tara and the U1, personally, I would say that in no matter the matchup, you're probably going to have, or I would recommend you to take one of those guns, either U1 or the Datara. But I would suggest you more the Datara than the U1, even though the U1 has a special place in my heart. um, but yeah, just by the simple fact that the Datara offer more action and more damage output than the U1, which has like a game plan of, oh, I have to mill out my opponent, and maybe if you're not lucky enough or your opponent took one of your essential gun, the one might become like obsolete. And again, if you look at the graph, if you look at the spreadsheet, you can clearly see that weirdly enough, the Enra has a lot of support, like as literally more than a life draining gun. And why is that? It's because I counted the support as any additional effect that can make you save resources. But you might say, well, that couldn't that be considered card advantage? Yes and no, but in this case it's more support. Because yes, let's say the double bullet that counts as 2 bullets, but in the voltage it counts as 1. It counts as 1, sorry. The double bullet effect are only going to be useful for certain abilities. Or yes, okay, it's going to push damage, but most of the time you're either going to get like chipped damage, or your opponent's going to do a big ton of damage and you're not going to be able to pass through that wall. Because with the 3 gunners that I talked about, all of them as defensive, most of them as have defensive skill cards. Let's say for Ran, she has Here I Come and Hold On. For Kuriko, she has Bullets in the Air, and even like Maximum Reload. Sorry, for like defensive purposes. Yes, I say defensive purposes because you could technically just reload all those four bullets into the Aquaman and deal like a good amount of damage to like heal you back and stuff. But normally the like Ibana is the only character to only have said one defensive ability, which is the Kage Somi, because, well, defensive. It's a big term, but I would say defensive is just to the fact that, hey, you're blocking your opponent to screw you up, and you can do whatever you want for this turn, and you do like 4 additional damage if you are able to load and shoot with both of your weapons, which in certain cases could be good. And I have some loadouts already prepared in the Tabletop Simulator demo to show you guys, and just to talk a bit about it and my thinking for each one of them. It might be not the best, but it's just a good idea of, hey, there's a multiple loadout possible, but again, it depends also on what your opponent took and what your opponent is playing. Saying that your opponent's playing the Ran Gunner, okay, so probably they're gonna pick something like Let's Go or maybe Hold On, because like I'm gonna say later on, Here I Come is for me the less appealing skill card out of all the 3 of them. So you kind of want to go with popularity and like your knowledge of the game. Or let's say that your opponent is playing Ibana, so you know you're against an aggressive gunner, straight up. So what you're gonna do? Well, pick maybe something like Kuriko with bullets in the air to reduce the damage, or something like Ran with ongoing, so like that you can have a consistent amount of healing each turn. Which either cases could be bad and good, but again, it's mostly with what is your game plan, and always have a plan B and plan C prepared, no matter what. Because again, right now we currently have 3 gunners and 5 guns, but with Notori and Isane coming out, we're gonna have 4 gunners and 6 guns. So more idea for loadouts and more possibility of like synergy between guns. Again, we don't know what Notori does exactly, and we don't know what the Isane shotgun does really. So, with all that said, let's jump off into the Tabletop Simulator so I can show you some of the loadouts. So let me do this. There you go. So I have a couple of loadouts. I have 9 loadouts, and as you can see, I might be biased, so I might have used the one a lot, but it's just to show you a couple of loadouts. So we're gonna start with the top left right here. We're gonna go left to right. Then after that, we're gonna go down and right to left, and after that, left to right. So this loadout is the recommended one for new players in the core rulebook. The reason why it gives you enough time to heal, because you do damage and heal with either the Aquaman or Here I Come, and with the round effect, you have enough loading effect for either one of the guns to do what you want exactly. So this is a grinding. This is clearly like a grinding effect or grinding loadout. Sorry, just because you have the one and a loading gunner, and the effect of run accelerate the process of milling out your opponent, which is really good. But again, I'm just showing it to you guys for those who maybe not have seen the core rulebook and see that loadout. So this is one. This Ibana one is really interesting, and it's the second one suggested by the core rulebook. So Enra with a support with double bullet, the once per turn ability from Ibana to charge up 2 of your voltage, and the new way that loads your new way for 1 card if you have lower health than your opponent. So you might see a synergy already with this, because you have the double bullet from the Enra that you can load into the new way. So the new way is getting charged up faster to do that 14 damage faster, and with all those bullets that you are going to use, you're gonna get enough voltage to use Oboro Bashiri, and on and on and on. You see a certain synergy with this, and this is just a solid, for my opinion, is just a basic solid setup. The next one is a bit special to me, because it is the setup that I used to beat Beans in the Lions Play episode 3. Simply because it is a good setup for like tanking damage and managing resources. If I recall correctly, I should have checked the episode a bit more carefully, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the match, my Enra deck was still at 12 or 14, and my Uwan's deck was still at 9. So I was using my resources really, really efficiently. So I could mill my opponent out. Unfortunately, this is a bit of the on the weak setup, but can also this can be a really good setup just because of that bullet in the air. And since you are shooting and charging your one fast, you get that voltage fast, and you can assure that you can at least activate bullets in the air faster in the game, so like that you can get that efficient in that efficiency that I was talking about, and that consistency in tanking damage to find a solution. And again, the ability of Kiriko, and the reason why I picked Kiriko besides her skill was basically for the hand size. Four is just, I love to have a lot of card in my hand. Sometimes I don't mind having less, but I hate discarding resources. Like, this is something that I hate, and I love to just be efficient with my resources and do as much as I can with the less resources that I possibly want to like use for it. So a 4 and a mulligan at the start of the game is always good to have like that really good setup. Another one with Kiriko, again it's a late game. It's a late game setup, but this time it's a bit more on the spiked diagram, if I can say so myself. What I mean by spiked is that you're not gonna mill as consistently as the Enra and Uwan. You're gonna have some big spike of milling, but not that much because, okay, maybe you use some mechanism of the Aquaman to load up the Uwan, then shoot the Uwan and load up your voltage. Then use Juiced Up, and for a maximum of, let's say, 9 damage minimum, you mill 9, which is a lot. But again, you have to use 9 resources for 9 milling, which is for me a ratio for 1-to-1. It is good either way. The only problem that I would have with this is that in total you would need to use like a lot of resources just to get there. And it is a good plan nonetheless, but again, a risky one and a slow one. I wouldn't like recommend it to anyone since the Aquaman is a pretty hard gun to master and to play. This gun, this setup. This setup has been used against me and I lost, so I want to like make some highlight about it. That my opponent knew that I was going for a slow, grindy game, so they went to a more aggressive and more disruption. So that's why they picked the Datara. And with Senko Anabi, since they're gonna shoot a lot to prevent me to play stuff, they have enough voltage to just after that take my half of my health in one go. So that setup is just an aggressive push damage and one turn because you don't want to let the more grindy player have enough time to play. So what you're gonna do is just charge up that Senko Anabi as fast as you can and just use that as a big push of damage, and after that maybe finish it with the Enra or the Datara, but normally you want to end the game with the Senko Anabi. If your opponent survives after you use Senko Anabi, you're probably gonna lose, or you just made an opening for your opponent to might come back. Maybe or maybe you're just gonna win the game either way, but use Senko Anabi as a finisher and not as just a damage pushing skill guard. Next one. Ran with Oldon, Didara, and Inoue. Why? A lot of loading capability, and since Didara can reuse the resources from your discard pile, maybe you use a shell generator from the Inoue for charging ammo, you can like stack up the loading effect so like that you can get that big push of damage for the Inoue. And with the Hold On, it's just a good, I would say a good combo in general, because let's say that you push 2 damage for, early on in the game, since you have the load of 2 for the Datara for, let's say, free shot and poison shot. So your opponent cannot load normally, and I think the poison shot made that your opponent cannot play action cards. I would have to recheck again later on, but you know what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying. So you push for 2 damage, and after that, with all the loading effect, and you're like slowing your opponent down, you just shoot for 14 with the Inoue, activate hold on, and like that you have a consistent healing method until you get the either the Datara or the new way to be ready to shoot again. Next up, Enroy and Datara again, but this time with Let's Go. So since Ran can load up guns, we're using those two, which are a pretty aggressive combo. You can get that Let's Go voltage cost really fast, and like that you can just push for even more damage because Ran loading the effect, Enra with that double bullet, 5 damage push, go, done. The Tara, oh, getting back some cards to push back your opponent even more to not let them shoot or do something. Freezing shot, like, oh, you cannot charge normally, and like a random load, a random bullet to like, oh, well, use the voltage, and after that, oh, let's go, another turn, I'm getting back my free shot, loaded again in the Datara, and again and again and again. This is just, this I would say it's a aggressive and oppressive aggro method. It doesn't have that speed of Ibana and doesn't have that charge up that Ibana gives, but that load effect can be really useful in some situations just to push even more damage and not necessarily like getting ready for that let's say Senko Anabi that I mentioned earlier. Ibana with Uwan and Aquaman. Again, using the Uwan because I love the Uwan. And Kage Somi. I tried this. I failed against one of my peers. Again, I got 2-0, but I didn't mind. Losing is part of learning, guys. Never forget that. So, Uwan and Aquaman. Aquaman again for the mechanism and Uwan just for the milling, but this time, both of their effect cannot be negate since you are using Kage Somi. So, let's say that in the optimal situation, I would say the optimal situation, you have all 2 mechanisms that deals additional 1 damage per hit of the Aquaman. So you have 2 extra damage. You have the Uwan of 3 bullets, 4 damage. That's 6 damage total. Then you have the Kage Isomi for 2 damage total. And that damage cannot be reduced or anything. So you're dealing 8 damage to mill 8. I would say it's probably like the the weakest combo that I've thought of, but I just wanted to show it to you guys just to prove that there's a lot of possibility. It just depends on how you play them and how good you are of managing your resources and placing your card and have a good decision making IQ, if I would say, to like play around that slow start, that slow bomb that you have in your hand, but you know that later on, if you're set up correctly, that bomb is probably gonna cost the game of your opponent. And the last build, the last loadout I'm gonna show you guys is Kiriko with maximum reloading. Reload, sorry. So this one is more of a on the meme side. On the meme side, for what? Because of maximum reload. So you don't mind really using like either guns. Again, I think that I said that for the previous loadout, but I think this is the worst loadout I've created ever, since the 2-gun don't do that much. There's not really a good synergy between them. Maybe the new way with the shell generator to like load up the Uwan for like that mill your opponent faster, then get that voltage faster, then like have a big push of mill, etc. So I would say it is a bit weird, but let's do for the best case scenario, okay? So you have 3 bullets for the U1, which is 4 damage. You have 2 armor piercing ammo from the new way, which is an additional 4 damage. That's 8. That's a total of 8 damage that you're milling to your opponent. And let's say that you are 15 life or lower. You have 15 life or lower. Shoot the Uwan for that 3 bullet that you're missing for the maximum reload. Use maximum reload to load 3 into, let's say, the Uwan and the other 3 into the Nue. Shoot with the Uwan an additional 4. So you're milling your opponent for 12, which is around around 30% of their deck, and you've pushed 12 damage, which is a lot. Then after that, let's say that you didn't use your loading effect on the new way. You load one from the new way and shoot. That's 7. So you're dealing a total of 19 damage, which is more than half of their health. You've milled 30% of their deck, and at this point of the game, they're not gonna have like that much resources in their deck. Let's say that at best they have 25 cards in their deck. You've milled 50% of their deck. That is a lot. And again, it's wow to imagine that, but again, the synergy between those two guns are so slow that it might not help you guys to get there and get that W. So, with all that said, that's gonna be it for me for today. I'm gonna text again Bradley for this amazing opportunity to make you guys this video, so you guys might have a better understanding on what is gun and gun and what is the possibility that are open to you. Again, I might forgot some synergy and might have forgot some strategy that you guys can use, but again, with Notori coming out and the shotgun also eventually coming, all of this, like I said previously in the video, all of this might not be true after that. Maybe the game is going to be a bit more aggressive, or maybe on the control side. So you'll probably want to be like more on the milling strategy, or you want to be more on the aggressive strategy. So probably you want to get that first pick first, so you can get Ibana, get that sweet Senko Wanabe, and push a lot of damage. Maybe. So I wish you guys staying safe, take care of yourself, and if you have any other question, my name is again Half on the Discord. Just poke me if you want to talk to me. Just joyful. I'm gonna be super happy to just talk to you guys and just talk theory crafting. And for sure, I'm gonna think about some stuff when the Notori is gonna come out, and we're gonna know what our skill cards are doing, and same for the shotgun. So I hope you guys had a good time, and I hope I didn't annoy you or annoyed you too much with this video. And yeah, just have a good day, everyone. Cheers.